Hmm. Last week, you noticed life started moving again, and it wasn't in a dramatic way and may not have even happened all at once. But you may have noticed something subtle, a sense that things are no longer waiting. This week, that feeling becomes clearer. It can feel like life is looking at you and saying, all right, what are we doing with this now? If that sounds familiar, you're not imagining it. That's the energy in the room this week. Hello, beautiful ones. I'm Cindy, an astrologer, mystic, and I guide people through periods of deep change by helping them understand what the sky is doing inside them. Welcome to Forecasts That Shift Timelines, where each week we follow the story, our story, as it unfolds, not just around us, but through us. And this week, what's moving through us is a concentration of energy in Capricorn. And Capricorn has a very particular way of showing up. If you know Capricorns, you know Capricorn doesn't rush, nor does Capricorn create drama. Capricorn simply brings things into focus. Capricorn is the part of life that asks, what are you building now? And what are you committed to? And does your life actually support who you're becoming? So this week, because of all this concentration of energy, these planets, you may notice responsibilities feeling more real, or decisions that can't be postponed much longer, or conversations that want clarity instead of cushioning, right? If there's a sense of weight to that, it doesn't mean there's something wrong. It means something has matured. Capricorn only steps forward like this when life is ready to move ahead with you in it. And right about here, something else shows up. This is not a loud energy, and it doesn't argue with Capricorn. That's not what it's doing. It doesn't try to stop the conversation. It just simply interrupts. Almost like a hand gently coming up and saying, hey, before we go any further, I need to say something. And this energy that I'm talking about is Chiron. And this week, Chiron is active. You can see where it's squaring here, right? Chiron is active. Now, it's not active to create a problem. It's active because it's already awake and it's beginning to have this conversation. So you might feel it as a hesitation in your body. Remember, Aries, Chiron, the wound, Aries, your body. So like a tightening or a pause you didn't plan on taking. And it can sound like, I can do this, but not like that. Or it can sound like, I know what's being asked of me, but something about the way I've done this before doesn't work anymore. Now, what Chiron is reacting to isn't responsibility itself. It's how you've learned to carry it. So, if, as life starts asking more of you, you notice irritation or sensitivity or a quiet resistance rising, that's not you trying to be difficult. And that's not you falling behind. That's the part of you that learned how to survive, realizing it doesn't want to run the show anymore. Chiron doesn't interrupt to derail the plan. It interrupts to make sure you're still in it. Because you can build something real. You just can't build it the same way you used to. That makes sense? And here's the part most people will miss about this week. Even though Chiron has spoken up and makes its presence known, Capricorn is still holding the floor. And especially recognize this, that even these two are not alone in the room. Remember, we have all this other energy. There are other presences here, quieter ones, and they matter more than they seem to at first. One of them is Uranus, right here, right? Uranus doesn't interrupt the conversation either. It leans in and says, there's another way to do this. So you may notice this as a small but meaningful shift, like a new idea or a different approach or a realization that you don't actually have to force something the way you always have. Uranus doesn't ask you to blow anything up. Remember, Uranus is retrograde now. That's the insight, the way you're thinking, the inspiration that you're getting. Uranus, what he does is just loosens what you've been holding too tight. And at the same time, Saturn is here too. So he's part of the conversation. Now, Saturn, we know, never rushes. So he isn't rushing you. Saturn isn't demanding answers. Saturn is the part of the story that says, let's do this in a way that your reality can sustain and last a while. Now, that can show up as a need to slow down or pace yourself or to stop measuring progress by pressure. And I know many of us have that. We don't feel the pressure. We don't feel like we're accomplishing or progressing. And then there's Neptune. Neptune doesn't speak in words. Neptune reminds you why you're doing all of this at all. So Neptune will bring meaning back into the room. Remember, this is the room, right? And here's Neptune and Saturn with a sextile, okay? So Neptune will soften the edges. Neptune will keep this from becoming all about productivity and performance, which Capricorn tends to love, right? Together, these three create something important. And what they're saying is, you, beautiful one, don't have to choose between responsibility and freedom. You also don't have to sacrifice yourself to move forward. And you also don't have to rush to prove anything. There is a way through this that feels steady, honest, and true to you. This is where the week quietly turns. Not with a big decision and not with a dramatic moment, but with a choice you may notice yourself making in real time. The choice isn't whether you'll show up. You already are. You've been showing up for a while. That's not what this is. The choice is how you do it, whatever that is for you. So this week asks, can you take responsibility without tightening around it, without those old habits? It's also asking, can you move forward without leaving yourself behind? You may notice moments where the old reflexes kick in to push a little harder, to do a little more, right? To explain a little more, to take on something just to keep things moving. And then almost immediately, something else responds. A pause, a break, a sense that says, I don't need to do this the old way. That right there is the choice point. Not between action and inaction, but between self-abandonment and self-respect. And here's the encouraging part. You don't have to get this perfect. You don't even have to make one big final decision. This week is built out of small moments, small adjustments, small acts of honesty. Each one says, I'm still here with myself as I move forward. That's how the story changes, quietly, from the inside out. So, how do you move with a week like this? I can assure you it's not by doing more, and it's not by pulling back completely either. This week responds best to pace. You don't need to force clarity. You don't need to resolve everything. What helps is noticing where you're tightening and loosening gently, or where you're choosing not to. Now, that might look like giving yourself a little more time before answering. It could also look like letting a conversation be simpler than you planned. It could also look like saying less, but meaning it more. And it can also look like adjusting how much you take on, even slightly. This week, small choices matter. They change the tone of the whole experience. And if you're noticing that your body wants support with this, and you're realizing it's not because something is wrong, but because something is shifting, I want you to know there is a space for that. I have what's called the Inner Pathway, and that's my membership. This is where we slow the process down. It's where we sit with these energies together through conversation and embodiment. So you're not trying to figure it out alone or push through what needs care. And you'll find that either in the join button there on my video, or I'll have it in the description below with a link. And for some of you who find that this moment is pointing to something more personal, I offer what I've named Guided Journey. And this is a 6-month container of you and I walking together through transitions like this with steadiness, honesty, and support. Not to fix you, but to help you stay with yourself as your life reorganizes. Now, if something in your body responds when I say that, you can reach out. My email is in the description. Just write Guided Journey in the subject line and tell me where you're at right now. Remember, there's no pressure, just presence, just a door that's open. And beautiful ones, before we close, let's place this week where it belongs. So last week was about noticing that life has started moving again. And this week is about how you move with it. Not everything needs to be decided right now. And nothing here is asking you to rush. What this week really does is show you where your way of carrying responsibility is changing. You're learning how to stay present with yourself while still participating in your life. That's not a small thing. And over the next few weeks, this continues. Again, not as pressure, but as refinement. As you show up in your present life, you'll keep seeing where honesty creates more stability than effort ever did. You'll also see where pacing brings more momentum than pushing, and where choosing yourself actually makes life work better and not worse. So if this week feels subtle, personal, or quietly important, I want you to trust that, because you're not behind. You're right on time for this part of the story. And next week, we'll take the next step together. But until next time, beautiful ones, remember, keep your frequency clear, your choices intentional, and your heart in the flow.